What's going on, Jordan? How you doing, man?
What's happening?
Appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, of course.
It's been a fun few years getting to know you, getting to do some business with you. And, we started doing marketing for ARL Logistics, which has been awesome. But, we started connecting a couple years back on the suit side of things, and you've just supported the hell out of us since day one. And it's cool to watch you from this side taking lead in your business and trying to keep up and change the way logistics are doing, because it's such a stale industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's evolving. I think there's a lot of people out there trying to make some changes, and it's just a very fragmented industry. So what we're trying to do is really push for that collaboration, so that let's all work together to try to move this, because if we all try to do it separately, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And there'll be winners and losers, but it's what doesn't work better if more of us are winners? We all kind of raise the bar collectively.
Yeah, and that's been your strategy for the most part since you've really taken lead here?
Yeah, and networking, just the commitment to networking. Getting out and seeing people, we say expand the network all the time, which is why, when I met you originally, checked a lot of boxes of, Pittsburgh guy, entrepreneur, bet on himself, doing the charity work, which was kind of, I think, the big tipping point for us. I was not a custom suit guy, but I guess I am now.
Yeah, dude, you have a ton, man. We appreciate that. And even I was talking to Krista the other day, and just you continue to treat us so well. It's cool, man. And to me, I look at it so much more than just you doing that. It's more of a, you understand life and how business works, and you take care of your team. That's one thing that I've loved about what you guys do. The environment you have in your office, the company culture you have is second to none. I really believe that, and I'm assuming you probably had a big portion to deal with that because you've taken lead in Pittsburgh for this company.
Yeah, no, it's a big part of us to treat our people right, give them a place that they can grow, and that they're a part of our success. And that a lot of logistics companies are set up in a way that obviously, the top earners are the champs, and everyone's getting all the praise, get all the money, all the perks, and which is good. You want those guys hunting, and you want younger people to see those guys and aspire to be that. But what ends up happening is you scale, is you have a few of them and a lot of people down below. And then it becomes unrealistic to see, how do I actually get there? So few get there and they get discouraged. So our goal was from day one was to build a culture where everyone's successful. And success is defined differently by different people. It's what you want to put into it. Right. But they should be seeing personal growth year over year, and also financial growth year over year. And I always tell people, it's no shame in saying we work to make money.
Yeah, of course.
So we don't do this for our health and everything else. It's fun what we're doing, but ultimately we should be taking a step forward every year. And if those around you are also seeing the benefits of that, now we're all beating to the same drum.
Yep. We're
coming in on Mondays, excited to be there, not dreading to be there.
Yeah.
Thinking of different things that we can do together to collaborate and grow the company more. It's a great environment to be in.
Yeah, dude, that's, I've worked briefly in well, I guess not briefly, 8 years in kind of corporate America-ish, or that type of lifestyle. I was only 3 or 4 months where I actually had to go to an office. The rest of that was me being by myself. So I never really got to appreciate what the culture was like, other than when I would go to, the quarterly meetings or the national sales meeting. And I really looked forward to those, because it was me finally getting to spend time with people that you get to bitch about the same stuff to each other, right?
Yeah.
You get to talk about the success, you get to talk about the frustrations and things of that nature. And when I was by myself throughout the year, I would pick up the phone, and there were certain people I talked to almost every single day, 2 or 3 times a day. So I guess I should say I was fortunate enough to have that culture and experience, but it was never on the day-to-day truly getting to see each other. And I think there's so many. I was texting somebody today, and he's like, bitching about going back to work. And I get it, your long weekend, all that stuff. Yeah. But man, it's like you part of your life, a big part of your life is what you do for a living.
Yep.
And I think so many people don't understand how important it is to want to really be focused every day, and to put the attention and the detail and the care in every day. And as I'm building a business, that stuff has always been a big problem when it doesn't work, because 1 or 2 people can really hurt the environment.
Sure. Yeah, and you have to love what you're doing, and then you're always working. So then the days start to feel the same, and people tell you, hey, you got to disconnect. And I was, you got to find your ways to disconnect. But ultimately, if it's ingrained in your life and just becomes a part of your life, and then also that means your personal is going to intermix, so that I'm sure there's things you got to handle middle of the day on a weekday. Yep. That you got to step away and just handle it. And it's not a big deal. They just figure out how to catch up later. and having that freedom to do it. And I think a lot of people are seeing it now because, work from home, work remote, all these things. I personally am not a big working remote type guy. I do believe that you should want to be around other people as you're trying to create and build something. But at the same time, like, you got to be able to step away to just go handle it. I'd rather you go spend 2 hours and take care of whatever you need to for your family or personal reasons, and then come back clear. And I know they'll get the work done.
Yeah.
And then also the other teammates, they know that too, and they're going to step in and help them. So it's not like the business skips a beat,
right?
And vice versa. If you have that good culture, that the teammates you'll turn around and do it for one of your teammates as well.
And it's the same thing in sports, right? Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets injured, somebody misses a play. You want to make up for the team, and it's the same.
Next man up. That's what Tom would say.
Yeah, honestly, the standard is the standard.
That's right.
But no, that's cool. So whenever you got to ARL, was the culture that way, or was this something that as you've kind of climbed the ranks, it was something that you were able to take control of and steer it a little bit differently? Talk to me a little bit about that, because a lot of people that listen, business owners, people that have an interest in what we're doing from a personal growth standpoint, helping on their own company culture. And this is a topic that I love getting an idea from people, because the most successful people tend to share these things that you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I think so. If anyone knows Ron Faraday, they know that his work ethic, where he stands as a human, where he stands as a businessman, his commitment to networking over the years. That was when I first met Ron back in 2015, the most impressive thing is we've been in the same industry together, but in two different verticals. And the network that he had was tremendous, and it was all based on handshakes and respect. So that was always there. The entrepreneurial spirit and the grind and the always on and being that servant leader, that was always there. But Ron's always had agents. So he's never had a company store before, building something from the ground up. And the biggest thing when he came to me is that he needed someone like me, because he had this idea, but he also had no additional time. He was already stretched so thin. So a lot of what we did was some things that we took from our past job experiences, things that we liked, but also tweaked them in a way that know that this is going to appeal to a lot of different people, but also it's sustainable and something we can build over time. And our industry is big on the work hard, play hard, but that's usually used by recruiters to bring people in, because it's a numbers game. If I can bring in 10 people, I can get one person that's out of it. If I bring 100 people, then I should get 10 people out of it. And it's like, now we'd rather take that environment to make the people that are here never want to leave.
Correct.
And that they're going to keep bringing the effort every day, so I'll continue to invest in them, even if it takes a little bit longer with certain people. I always tell people, as long as you show up every day and you're grinding and you're open to coaching, we keep investing.
Yeah.
Why would I spend all this money to find you, train you, just because you didn't hit a number last month to say, oh, this is over?
Yeah.
I'd rather spend that additional time, as long as they still have a positive mentality. So the culture was built to make sure that they feel like they can recharge at any given time, to then, hey, I'm having a bad moment. That's all right. Take a break.
Yeah.
And then get back in.
And that was a big frustration when I was in medical sales. I remember it was like to go up a level in your base salary, there were $5,000 increments, and you had to have 2 successful years back to back of hitting plan, and then you went up another $5,000 for base, and then I think you could go up 10,000 or something. So, but then if you missed it, you went back down.
Nice.
And it was like, first of all, there's different things that happen, right? You have personal human things that happen that you may be off for a couple months, and then it ruins the entire year for you.
Yeah.
There's technology changes. There's competition that pops in that has something different and unique. And I never understood the environment. I think that was a big reason. What frustrated me and made me want to really look elsewhere was like, how can I be so good for you as an employee for this many years, and then I had one bad year, and then now all of a sudden I'm on the chopping block for my second year? It doesn't make sense at all. It's crazy.
And especially when you're not involved in all the decisions of the company. So there's things that happen that you have to now adjust to. And I'm sure they're making what they think is the best decision for the company as a whole, but not necessarily the best for you as an employee in that position.
Right.
And you might need some more time to adjust to that. So knowing that, we have to make decisions that are best for the company, and knowing that could have some positive and negative effects on people, but hopefully mostly positive. But you got to look at each situation differently.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just never want anyone to have to wait 2 years to try to get, a $5,000 raise. Like, I want them to be able to say, like, I can go get that raise, on my own by doing X, Y, and Z over the next 6 months, and control their own destiny.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a big shift happening, and you would know more than me, but in the way of life and work right now, the opportunities that people want to feel more of a part of something, for that exact instance, it's like, hey, the traditional as we were growing up is, hey, you work a job and every year you get a 2%, 3% raise, and like that's typically how a lot of companies operate. But like, why would there not be some form of a performance put in there? Why would there, I don't know how you guys slice it at ARL and everything, but I'm assuming it's like, look, if you want to be here, work your ass off, put your best foot forward every single day, and just do what we coach you to do, and you end up making more money than you probably realize.
Sure. And then we have KPIs, so there's individual KPIs and there's team-based KPIs. And knowing that, hey, as the company's doing better, we all should do better, and we can see those numbers. So we know what success is. But then also, everyone's in their own they're in their different phase of their professional development. So you have individual KPIs of what you should be doing. And it's not because, hey, you don't do these, you're going to get fired. It's if you want to be successful, this is what success has looked like previously.
Yeah.
So results are always end game in sales. And you know what? If you got to your results with that little effort, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that keeps up for you, but numbers would say it's probably not. You're going to need to keep grinding. But if you're not getting those results right now hit these KPIs so that we can keep investing in you, and your time and effort is what we get in return.
And that's something. So we're, for the clothing side of what I'm doing now, we stripped down everybody right before COVID and through COVID, and then now it's just Chris and myself, and we're getting ready to launch in the back half of this year and hiring a team and bringing people on, and even just hearing you talk about like the team KPIs that you could potentially have. Like, how much fun is that as part of your day job, is to talk to people that you work with, to help one another, to coach one another, to give them tips and suggestions, talk to them about shit that you went through that was a problem, how you worked it out, so then they don't have to make that same mistake. There's something to me that's so powerful about that, and really fulfilling. And that's one thing I can't wait to start doing, is like, hey, let's have a company goal, like, right, let's actually operate as a company. Let's have a goal. Let's have a team for just the reps. Hey, let's have a competition within the reps. And all those things are so good because it breaks up the monotony of just working, and it also it allows somebody an opportunity to benefit themselves, and also, look, you can grow long term at a company like ARL and other businesses as well if you bust your ass.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
No, it's really not. And then we try to, we call it the gamification of the numbers, so all these things are transparent. Everyone can see it. So then, you will get your peers kind of riding on you too. And there's a little bit of chirping at the end of the day as they're looking at what's going on and want to know where they stand. But at the end of the day too, they want to win, but they also want to see them pushing their peers to do better as well. Figuring if they do better, that's going to push them to do better. And they know that they're not threatened by the competition. They actually want it. And if they see a player, that's not bringing it that day, they're like, come on, man, what are we doing here? It's like, because it's like, you're only strong as your weakest link, but that negative energy could ride over. So they instantly want to squash it and get that person back into it. And they're saying, like, there's always a KPI that you can win, and some of them are effort based. So those guys are out crushing on the results, and, all right, that's great, but they're only winning in a couple of those columns. Like, go after that results-based one just by working hard. Yep. I hate to say it, like it's that easy, but man, when I came out of school, it was like, just give me a job, and I'm gonna go work harder than anybody that's there. Yeah. And then I'll figure out what happens the rest of the life.
Dude, that's taking it in your own hands, right? That's what not enough people do nowadays, which is kind of crazy, because I think it's the most obvious situation, and if the better you are, and the more attention you get from success you're going to have, naturally people are going to want to keep you around longer and promote you and bring you in, or they just see more value, and maybe a competitor comes over and says, hey, like, you guys are, you're doing this. I noticed you're there. Hey, why don't you come in and have an opportunity with us? Yeah. Makes you more valuable as a tangible resource for somebody.
Well, you should always, bleed for the company that's investing in you. And give them that fair shot. But there's always going to be that time where if you don't feel like you've gotten it, there's no reason to sit there and be mad about it. Yeah. Go and market yourself and try to figure it out. And hopefully before then, your employer figures it out. But worst case, they may need to lose you to figure it out. And I've seen plenty of employers that will lose that person. You see them be successful somewhere else, and they still don't change. Yeah. But whatever, that's their model. Yeah, no knocking on that, but it's not the employee's obligation to wait for that moment.
Correct.
Hopefully they see it, they invest in it, and then they give you those opportunities to grow. I think the other side of it, though, is sometimes, especially with people coming through today, they want that instant gratification.
Absolutely, without
Like,
putting the work in.
6 months is like 10 years to them.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, man, I've been here 6 months. I should deserve this thing. It's like, yeah, if you're really good, I mean, I get it. Yeah, and there should be a path. You should see what that path is to being what's next. And you don't need to wait 5 years. Not like, our parents probably would sit around in a job for 20 years and wait for something.
For sure.
But, that you have to have that balance and be fair to the employer too.
How do you have that conversation with a new hire or somebody that's coming on board? I mean, what's your thought process on that? Because that's a good point. And in today's world, companies like Amazon, things like Instagram, it's a now, it's a look at me, it's a how fast can I do something, and all these memes that float around on social media. I saw this one, and it keeps popping up. It pisses me off. I'll have to send it to you. It's something like the dude, and it's a young guy that's probably 10 years younger than us.
Yeah.
And it's one of the swipe pictures. And the first picture, it's him reading a magazine. And then the second one, it's like, and 3 months later, he's making $100,000 a month. It's like, no, he's not. Yeah. Stop that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, in today's day and age, in hiring and bringing people on, is it just something up front? Hey, you build that camaraderie with whoever you're interviewing. Hopefully they come on board. And at that point, it's like, you really lay it out for them. Like, you will have an opportunity here. But it's going to take time, work, and it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah,
so a lot of times what I'll talk to whether entry level or experience, doesn't matter to me, is saying, okay, look, I need to know what the number is that makes you feel good about taking this job, and you can pay your bills, whatever you might have, or if you're married, you can go home and tell your spouse, like, I'm making a career move. But ultimately, like, I can explain to you about what's going on in my business, I can let you shadow, but you're not going to pick it all up. So let's give it 6 months. Get on the job, we'll train you, whatever training you need. We'll go over all these KPIs. You'll have a much better picture of what our business is. And I said, at that 6 months, we're going to sit down and talk about, potentially, how much risk do you want to take? Because that's the other thing for me is like, I never want an employee that's going to have to ask for a raise. It's like, we're going to work it out and structure it. And if you want to take a little risk, well, we'll just go salary plus small commission, salary plus bonus, whatever it is. But if you want a lot of risk, we can go more towards the straight commission side of things. But you can't have that educated conversation or negotiation until you've been with it 6 months. So the other side of it is after 6 months, I want you to call my baby ugly. I said, come in here and pick it apart. 6 months absorb, but then I want to start hearing those ideas, because just because that's how we build it doesn't mean that's the way it's got to go. So maybe from that, we find something that you can own, a process that you can own, or an improvement that you're going to be in charge of it now. And those are other ways that I can incentivate. You're going to help me grow the business by fixing a problem that we didn't identify before, or we just didn't have time to handle it, and you're going to run it, and I'll compensate you off that. So they will basically have an opportunity to help you build and put more foundation in the business as they're there and become more involved based off of their experience. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize you did that. Yeah, and it's always hard, and you never know. You have to wait the 6 months to kind of figure it out, and there's a lot of conversations that'll have happen between then and there, but I always say, like, you got to look from the business side of it too. If you want to make more money, you have to, have the business earn more money as well. So, through that, whether it's a process improvement that streamlines the process, that, makes us more efficient and enhances the bottom line, or just a better way of us, selling a certain service that now we can grow another revenue stream, or it even just becomes you managing a few people that's going to allow me to promote one of my existing guys so that we can now, scale the business, then you'll go into that management role. Yeah. So sometimes it's not necessarily they have to come up with something, but maybe the business has a need and you fill it. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize, look, there are businesses that do $100 million a year and then they net 2 million, $1 million, 5 million, right? Or there's businesses that make, the 10 million as a top line revenue and they're netting 3 or 4 million. It's so, I've learned even more so through this, because I was always one of the sales reps in medical. It was like, why can't we just do this promotion? Why can't I just sell it for this price? And you realize, like, businesses have to sell and stay true to who they are at a specific price, because of whoever's running the business. There's obviously reasons that number or that target is put into place. So until, shame on me, because I didn't understand that to the extent of understanding what really goes into a business and how things operate. But it's cool to have feedback like that, because sometimes a clean set of eyes is a good opportunity to see something you haven't seen. Yeah, and a lot of times too, they'll have a lot of good ideas, and there's things that we have identified, and for one reason we can't do it, or there's a reason why. And we'll sit down and explain to them the business reason why it can't be done. Or maybe they're just, in those 6 months, we didn't explain every aspect of it. So it's kind of, all right, we're going to let you step back now and look at it from our vantage point of why we're doing it that way. And it might even be something that said, hey, we agree it's not ideal, but until I can automate it, it's just what it's going to be for now. But, table that idea. But I think if you don't explain to them the whole picture, then they'll just walk away mad because you told them no.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, no, it's either a no or it's a no, not right now, and here is why.
Yeah.
And ask as many questions about that as you want.
I was just talking to someone yesterday, and they were mentioning their boss, and he owned a business, and this person came in and started like saying, hey, just, I pulled him in the office and just said, hey, if we made this change, and this change, I think it would make sense for the business and also for you. And his response was, I just don't have time for that. That's not a priority right now. And then that person's like, well, fuck you. I'm not going to be interested in doing this anymore.
Thank you for slamming that door in my face. Yeah.
Like people want to be a part of it. And I think they should want that, right? And I think people care now more than they did when I was 23, 24, 25. I think the mindset of a lot of businesses, and maybe then I was just hanging out with different people, right? Which could be a huge part of it, but I think people value their time more than they ever have now, and I think the pandemic certainly sped that up to or brought that to light more. I mean, people are quitting jobs now without even having another job.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is that was something you never really thought about before.
Yeah.
So there's a huge shift happening in the day-to-day mentality of an employee.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where that's going to go. Because I think a lot of people, they're a lot of employees that are free agents now and doing just that, and they're looking for that perfect situation. And I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn Recruiter on a job we had posted, and she was flat out honest. She's like, look, been working from home, we got the kids, I am literally only looking for remote jobs and everything else, which I appreciate. She was upfront about it. I can't accommodate that.
Right.
If your situation ever changes, let me know. But there's a lot of employers you're hearing about, like they have to accommodate these requests because their employees are just not going to come back.
It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
I can't get down with that mindset, because I just think to your point, like, companies are still loyal. They're giving you an opportunity to make money, right? The work environment may not be the best for certain businesses, and that's something that needs to be addressed. But they're investing in you as an employee coming on board. So the least that you do is to owe it to somebody to do it the right way. Hey, here's my 2 weeks. I'm gonna walk away at this point, not just throwing the paper in the air and walking out the office, man.
Well, you're sticking your foot down on a COVID brought this new life to them. It wasn't the job you were hired to. It was never the expectation. Right. So like as we shift back now, and we can debate on how long we should have been that way and whatnot, but it is what it is now. So you go back to the job that you once had. Now, if you can negotiate with your boss in a very fair way that says, hey, this worked for me and this is why, and that's something maybe they can work towards. Like, don't put a gun to their head.
Yeah, of course.
But if in the meantime, all fair, if you get another job and you put your 2 weeks in, that's someone to accommodate, then it is what it is.
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
Can you do?
It's funny. A couple of my friends, they were at, one person was at American Eagle and one was at, I think, PNC or whatever. And I think 6 months ago, their company said, we're never going back to the office. And then I had dinner with my buddy the other day, and he's like, yeah, now they're looking at going back 3-4 days a week. And so I think it's already past that stage of working from home consistently. I think Americans were just programmed different. And I also do believe, like you said, you got to be there to have that real experience with people. The shift may happen where it's not 5 days a week, or it's maybe not 4 days a week. But I think going back, the majority of the week is certainly going to be in question, or is certainly going to be the lead of how things are going to move forward in business.
And there's certain jobs that I would agree that could stay home forever. There's going to be certain, like the software engineers, developers, things like that. I heard it like from guys in Chicago too. It's like the thought of trying to get someone to come in to downtown Chicago and pay all the expenses to do that. It's like they're just going to get another job because there's 8 of them that they can get right now. So you have to make the business decision and say, okay, you guys can work remote. But the good side of that now is maybe before they were recruiting only in Chicago, now they can recruit all over the country. It's like, well, if we're going to let you guys work remote, I can get someone in Pittsburgh to do it, Florida, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I think it is a balance. There's certain parts of your business though that you just need them in the office. And for a growing business, you just need to be around each other in some. Other industries could be completely different. Silicon Valley's been doing this stuff forever, so, but for the companies that weren't doing this but prior to COVID, they probably would prefer not to keep doing it.
Yeah. So let's get back to ARL as a whole organization, company. I was fortunate to have a long conversation with Ron at the event, and what you had said about him is it's just really awesome to see, because Ron has done things with ARL that I aspire to do with my business as I continue to grow. And I think those entrepreneurial minded people, you tend to, you know how it is, you just instantly click with him, right? Yep. Those people put off such a good, powerful aura of who they are, because they genuinely, they want to help people. I think first and foremost, people like Ron, they know the success that he was able to earn by busting his ass. He wants other people and everybody that's involved in your organization to have that same opportunity to grow and enjoy life the way that he has. Yep. And I think that's what's so powerful about the foundation of everything. So let's talk a little bit about the day-to-day of ARL, kind of a day in the life of what you're doing now. And then I want to kind of dive into the future, because I know you guys are growing at a pretty rapid pace, and it's crazy to see the industry as a whole. As we mentioned, it's an older school mentality industry, but you guys are doing a lot of cool things to change that.
Yeah. And then, so, starting with Ron, like I said in the beginning, just a great guy in general, puts a lot of trust in you from day one. And over the years too, that trust has burned him, and it's some people that, maybe didn't deserve it, took advantage of it. And that didn't stop him from taking a chance on me, which I will always be thankful for. But also I carry that as a responsibility that, we have a lot, we got to keep earning that respect every day. Although he puts no pressure on me to do it. Yeah. And then, then that trickles down to all my guys. Same thing. It's like, hey, Ron never once has come to us and said, why don't you hit this number? Or why aren't you guys doing this? But at the same time, like, we actually want to work harder because he does not do that to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the day in the life, really, it's like, a lot of days I don't even necessarily talk to him. And a lot of times if he is calling me, I know it's because he either talked to someone about a deal, or it's following up on another deal that we're doing, or it's a trip that we got coming up. Yep. And it's always creatively thinking about the next move that we're going to be going on. And it's never about, I saw that report last night and the numbers look bad and what are we doing to fix it?
Yeah. Well, that's so cool, because to me that just spells it out right there, right? You are in the position you're in for a reason. He doesn't question it. There's no reason for him to think otherwise of, hey, this was the greatest hire that I made, right? And I think that's something that a lot of business owners, and I questioned myself a lot in the beginning, because everybody that came on board essentially had failed. And a lot was my fault from a standpoint of I didn't have the right processes in place. We were such a new business at the time, and I tried scaling across the country, and it worked for a little bit, but it was never sustainable. We didn't have the product at that time. We didn't have the consistency at that time. We didn't even have freaking measuring videos to show you how to do things. So I would fly and train somebody for 3 or 4 days, and then I'd come home and expect them to remember that. Yeah. So, but every single person I hired, I realized, like, I wasn't going to hold anything against the next person based off of how somebody treated me, and pretty much everybody that's worked for me screwed me over in some capacity, and it's disheartening for a minute, but then you start realizing that's just part of finding good people. And Krista's been incredible now that we have her for 2 years, and there's 2 other people we're looking at bringing on in different cities. So that mentality of how Ron kind of conducts his life and his business is cool, because to see where he's at with you guys and to see the scale, it's pretty impressive, man. And without knowing him for the last how many years, like, I understand what he's been through just by the simple statement of how you portray him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's an easy guy to go to battle for every day, so then that's the culture that we bring. And then, I hope that my employees sit here and say the same thing about me. Yeah. There's a couple jokes out there of a couple of my guys, maybe had a couple cocktails, pounding their chest a little bit about things we'll do. But, that's a respect that I feel like to earn every day, more so than the respect of Ron. I know he gives me that without blinking an eye, but it's a personal responsibility that I need to do. And every decision I make, everything I do each day is to make sure that my employees respect me and what I'm doing and know that I got their best interests at heart. But sometimes that means, I got to have a customer's best interest at heart, or an agent's best interest, a vendor. But at the end of the day, it's to take care of the employees and make sure this is a sustainable business. And they bet on me. Yeah. So I have all those families that are riding on me. And then it's interesting, because then you look to the personal side of it. For me, it's like, my family's just kind of used to this, and I've explained to them, like, look, obviously my family is priority number one, but if I don't make all of them seem, they're the priorities all the time, then that trickle down effect doesn't happen for us. Yeah. So the personal sacrifice we make to make sure that we have a financial future, that we don't have to worry about, how we're going to pay that next bill, or if COVID happens, well, what are we going to do? Like, we're fortunate in that regard, but it means I have to service these other families to make sure that they're all happy and thriving. Yeah. And I tell that to anyone that comes on board. It's like the second you come on board, you're instantly part of the family. You got 100% of my trust. I said, but don't mistake that for a weakness either. I mean, I've had people that took advantage of that, and I also have no hard feelings towards cutting ties. Because if I have to do what's best for the group of families, if one person's trying to screw that up, that can't happen.
How difficult was it for you in any situation when you have to let somebody go? That was very difficult for me in the beginning, and then it got to the point. My mentality when I started was, hey, I'm going to hire fast and fire slow because I'm going to give them all these alternatives. Okay, cool. Let me hear your story on why this doesn't work. But then you realize a lot of people don't change if something's already at the attention that needs to be talked about. But then you realize you got to take your time and hire the right people. And whenever it's that person that slips through the cracks and just wasn't a good fit, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. You got to get rid of them fast. Because that could be very toxic for a business. Yeah,
and I'm 100% transparent with that person at that point, as much as I was transparent with them during the hiring process. As I said, one person can't mess this all up. Now, I think what you see a lot is in the hire fast mentality is sometimes things happen with the business that then makes it so, hey, we're going to have to lay some people off to keep this thing going, to protect what's left. And that I never agreed with. And I said, we hire a little bit slower because we're just making sure, that if the business that turns, that's on me. That ain't on you. It wasn't your fault. So I should be eating that, not you. And so we're a little methodical in the things that we do. And our industry is very cyclical. It goes up and down. Right now, it's been booming, and that shows no signs of stopping. We all know it will.
Yeah, of course.
It'll probably be next year, but at some point, it'll happen. And I need to make sure I have enough buffer in there that says when the economy wants to pump the brakes, that I can just pump the brakes on hiring. I don't have to let anyone go. We'll just ride it out for a little bit and then let the model mature again before we go again. So I think all our growth is always up, flat, up, flat. But you hope that just each time you flatten out, you learn from the previous ones, and then you're ready to jump again a little bit faster.
So without anybody listening that has not a lot of knowledge in the logistics space, can you talk a little bit about the day-to-day as far as operations, your type of clients, customers that you work with, and just how that side of the business operates?
Yeah, I mean, really anyone that ships freight is a potential customer, and we definitely operate in the truckload world. So any 53-foot dry van you see out on the highway, or flatbed moving open deck freight, the containers that you see on the rail all over the country, all that is the type of freight that we're looking for. And ultimately, what we're doing in the morning is working with our operations team to make sure we're utilizing the best assets out there to move that freight most efficiently and cost effectively for our customers. We have a lot of competition too, so a lot of that means if we can't provide the service at a certain price, then we're just not going to get the business too. That's one of the hard things to measure in our business. How much did you miss?
Yeah.
Because you take a lot of swings every day and you miss on a lot of them. But for the customers who've been with us a while, they've seen that not only do we move products from point A to point B, that's what you're supposed to do, but we're always trying to find that value-added service to bring them, whether it's more information about what's going on within the industry for the data analytics side, so that they can present information back to their bosses or their salespeople, so they fully understand within the supply chain when potentially you might have some issues, or if it's just more visibility to what's going on. I think, I said, back to the industry being so fragmented, technology, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that there wasn't even a way to reach the driver.
Yeah.
Find out where they were at. Yeah. They just showed up one day, I guess.
Well, even I would assume the hours that a driver is allowed to drive.
Yeah, so they have hours of service restrictions. Obviously, everyone knows the Tracy Morgan case with Walmart. That driver was tired before he even started work, and then he's driving a truck and boom, kills a bunch of people. And I think that's what a lot of the general public thinks about when they think about trucks, or they see them in the road and they're just in the way. You don't understand, even when they're within the hours of service that they can run, their lifestyles are very difficult.
Sure.
You're on the road a lot. I mean, when we've all been on road trips and you stop at that truck stop. And I was coming back from just Hershey, PA, and we stopped the one of my was this is the food choices we get. And I was this is
dude.
Better grab a protein bar or something, because water.
It's a lot of eating at gas stations.
They don't have showers all the time.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that a lot of times people don't even know about, they have nowhere to park. So you go there and the parking spots are all taken. Now the driver has to figure out, okay, if I may have 2 hours left to drive today, and the more I drive, the more I maximize my revenue, more money I make, but this truck stop may be the last one between now and if I get to the next one and it's full, I'm screwed. And you can't just park on the side of the road.
Oh.
Because that's where if someone would happen to have an accident and you're sitting there, then the lawyers are all going to sue the trucking company for that guy sitting on the side of the road, sitting on an off ramp. Like, you're not allowed to do that. But
So I've seen trucks parked on at a rest stop, but going on back onto the highway in a sense, right past the rest stop. Is that allowed, or are they just, because it's booked so much, they just have to stop?
yeah, I think it varies. The ones that when you're just not even near a rest stop and you just see a guy that happens to be sitting there, you're getting on or getting off, that you're technically. But if the guy's dead tired, like, which would you rather him do? Sit right there or run into your vehicle? And the problem is now these lawyers all over the country, they have commercials everywhere. They have billboards everywhere. There's nasty truck drivers. Let's go get them.
Yep.
Well, most of the truck industry are small businesses. There a lot of them are 1 to 5 trucks that make up the majority of the capacity. You see all the big ones out there: Werner, Schneider, Swift, Knight. Yeah, those guys are massive. And they have deep pockets. But they also have a lot of lawyers. Like, the ones you're going after. You're just going to put them out of business.
Yeah.
They don't have the money that you're looking for because you got rear-ended or whatever it might be. But that's what the lawyers do, which means insurance rates keep going up. There's actually a bill right now that passed the House that would double the amount of insurance, auto liability insurance that a truck company needs. It's like, all that's going to do is wipe out the small guy. And that's what breeds the competition is the small guy. The big guys love that. They want to wipe out the small guy. They control the market. But people just see it from their perspective and don't see all the hardworking Americans that are out there trying to get your products there until your toilet paper doesn't show up at the beginning of COVID. And we had that whole problem going on.
Yeah.
And they're not even considered first responders, although they're supposed to keep driving through COVID the entire time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing. I mean, the amount of product that is touched by a truck, everything in the world, basically. Like, that's just, how do you expect to get some product from point A to point B? It has to happen. Yeah. And I think that's the world we live in too, is people are so quick to judge situations and whatever it may be. They don't think these things through, and maybe they're not meant to. I don't know. People are tough to deal with at times, but the lifestyle of a truck driver, even, I would drive when I was in medical sales. I covered 4 different states. So, I wasn't driving an 18-wheeler, but I was driving it was a minivan, and I loved it. But, dude, it's not appealing. Like, you're in the car for hours and hours every single day. You're eating at gas stations. You're going to the bathroom at gas stations. You're pulling on the side of the road just for a 20-minute nap just to catch up because you had to leave at 4 a.m. I've done all those things, and it is difficult, and I couldn't imagine the scale of being a big truck driver and have to deal with the headaches and the inconvenience of how that has to be too.
Yeah, and we're seeing it now. I mean, there's nobody our age or younger. Who do you know that's coming out to drive a truck? And it's just not happening. So it's only going to decrease the amount of drivers that we have out there. There's a lot of them that are retiring. A lot of them did retire this year. And it's just going to continue to happen. So we'll see. I mean, the industry is trying to evolve. That's why you hear about autonomous trucks and things like that. But, they're only one accident away from everyone freaking out. And that's the problem with everything here. And they take small data points and make it a big thing.
Sure.
like bad things happen all the time. If we read about every single one of them, you're like, wow, I'm never leaving my house.
Correct.
So you can't take these small data points to stop the evolution of wherever things are going next. But, time will tell.
What do you think about those trucks?
I think there's a place, there's what we look at is, say, I always use an example of like Chicago to LA, so will an autonomous truck be picking up in Chicago or dropping in LA, highly congested areas? Probably not. But could a driver handle that, get it out to a terminal that's outside in the suburbs, then autonomous vehicle hooks up to it, takes it majority of the way. I mean, when you're driving in the middle of Nebraska, straight, is totally different than downtown Chicago.
Well, I used to cover, I was in medical, this was my first job, and I covered like the Northwest, which made no sense. But, I would drive in Montana, and it'd be like, you'd see a mailbox, and you wouldn't see a fucking house, dude, at all. It was crazy. And, I was
Better have gas.
Dude, yeah, so somebody said you never let your tank get below a quarter tank because it was that desolate, and I just didn't believe it. And then when I was in Nebraska, I was in South Dakota, North Dakota, and it's crazy. There's literally a mailbox and it's flat. You're not looking at mountains to not see a house. It's a flat road, and dude, it's probably 10 miles to get to your damn house.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and then the computers can think faster than we can. So obviously, you worry about like ransomware and, cybersecurity, these things. If someone took over a truck and, ran it through a house or something like that. But so it'll take time for us to get used to it. But within our cars, they've been training this for years now. I mean, that's with the lane assist. Yep. They get the little beep, if you're going out of there. Now you can parallel park without doing anything. So they're selling them as perks to us, but eventually we're just getting closer and closer to driverless cars.
I never thought of it that way. It makes sense. Testing it on the everyday consumer to see how real it is. Even I just got a new car, and if you get up close and if you're going at a certain speed without touching the brake and the car stopped, it beeps a little bit and it touches the brake for you.
It'll stop for you, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Are there somebody mentioned this the other day, and I don't know how true it is. Are you seeing in the trucking world a lot of couples, husband, wife, to take advantage of the, you're only allowed 8, 12 out, whatever the shift is? Is that something real or is that BS?
Team drivers, yes. Yeah, but not necessarily always husband and wife. I always assume those people must have been soulmates, because how the hell
would you do it?
Yeah, my wife does it too. She'd say the same thing about me. There's no way that we were doing that day in and day out. But no, there's a lot of teams out there, expedited type shipments where they do take advantage of that they can cut the time in half. So while one's sleeping, the other one's driving. You really don't have to stop for food, fuel, and that's about it.
Can they? Is financially, is it that worth it in order what you can make to not pause for that long?
Sure. I mean, because you get heavy premiums on it. Now you have to have good customer connections that need those sorts of services. But if you compare it upright, and then sometimes too, they may have to take a load that only pays them the normal rate just to get them to the next spot. Just keep it going. But there's plenty of guys. That's all they do.
What's a percentage from a team versus a solo driver?
It's what on the
5%?
No, an additional revenue?
No. From a standpoint of
number of trucks.
Yeah,
it's a tough one to answer, but I would say it's on the lower end.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, most of it's not. Most of it's solo driver.
Yeah, I figured that, because even ever since we connected, I look at every truck that's driving by when I'm on the road, and I just, for whatever reason, it's just very fascinating. The logistics industry as a whole, as you see Amazon, how they're changing the game. I just, from a business side, I try to study different things that are not in my industry so I can learn and figure things out. But also on my products that are coming into the United States, and they're, we fly from Thailand through Hong Kong to Cincinnati, which is where I think the main DHL hub is that we use. We had I was doing Shazier's wedding, and this was 2018 or so, and he waited like super last minute to do everything, and his tuxedo landed in Cincinnati on Thursday, and his wedding was Friday. I'm like, all right, cool, at least it gives me a day in case I need to change anything. Well, apparently there on 70 East there was a tractor trailer accident, and because somebody died in the accident, they had to shut down the road for a certain amount of hours, right? And it was stuff like that I didn't realize how much logistics played into it. And even now, I shipped some stuff about 2 months ago. It still hasn't arrived to somewhere in Canada. I needed it to go. So you realize that there's so much that is involved in the day-to-day life, and even more so in my business, because it's my business, so I need to know. It's a very fascinating world, and as the technology advances and as the autonomous trucks and all that stuff, like, things are changing rapidly, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think everyone's highlighting now, especially with international trade, because these ships are just backed up for days. I mean, LA Long Beach, it's a 3-week wait. They're just sitting out there waiting in the dock because there's just so much going on. There's so much buying, and our whole theory was, okay, well, once we start opening back up and people start spending money on vacations and services, going out to eat and things of that nature, and they're not sitting at home just buying products off Amazon or redoing their house, that the buying of goods would start to change, but it hasn't yet. And I was just reading an article today. They're saying it's kind of crazy. Like, it's actually getting stronger still as people are spending on the service industry.
That's crazy.
There was just a lot of pent up money. I mean, people were saving. They were paying down their credit card bills during COVID. At this point, they still have money to spend. I always do the analogy with during COVID. It's like, well, if someone's going to spend $7,000 on some, Hawaii is probably even more than that, 10, 11,000, and they didn't do that for a year, and they put that money in their house. This is why the cost of lumber is ridiculous right
it's
now.
Like 4 times or 5 times.
Oh, it's insanity.
I think it was like a 2x4 was like $3 or $2 before.
No, it's
COVID.
like 12.
Yeah, dude, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's lumber. We never really want to ship lumber because it didn't pay that much. And now it's like they got to get it going. But it's just the ripple down effect from all these things that have happened. And you even go back a step further, like for a while there, they had shut down the mills where they're making the lumber, and then when they came back to work, they didn't have all their employees back. They were running on short shifts because they couldn't get all their employees back. And at the same time, the demand for the commodity was increasing. So we're still working through that backlog.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. So my thought was just what you said, that because the factories and whatnot would shut down for lumber specifically, that makes sense, right? They're behind backlog, so it's going to go, they're just a supply and demand thing. But I didn't realize because of the cost of lumber in the past that people weren't really interested in shipping it as much because there wasn't as much money to be made off that.
Yeah, because if you can only charge so much for a commodity, you can only pay so much in freight before it just doesn't make sense to ship it. So it became like just higher volume lanes that may have worked for certain carriers, but then the rest of the stuff just became, random carriers as it made sense. But it wasn't necessarily always would target, because for us, it didn't have a high profit margin to it. Or, we couldn't recruit the type of carrier maybe we would want to, that would want a certain rate per mile to cover their costs.
Okay.
But now, it's like fair game for everything right now. Yeah. Rates are through the roof. I mean,
Do you see that coming down at all?
It has to settle down at some point, but where it settles back will be the question. And this is probably a 2022 question, or before we'll get an answer. But like, it isn't like I could just show you scales. You don't need to know anything about our industry to see like where rates used to be. You see like the 2017, 18, 19 rates, and they all kind of go up and down, but they're really, where the graph used to be a lot bigger because the scale you could look at it. Now with 2020 and 2021 rates, they're so high that the scale looks like they had no change in their markets.
No kidding.
Yeah, because the rates are just unbelievably high, like things I never thought I'd see.
How difficult, and I'm assuming probably not because everybody's dealing with it, but like when you deal with a business owner, right, or whatever, that somebody wants to ship product and the cost is that drastic, how hard is that for you to have that conversation, or your team, or is it just understood at this point?
In the first 3 to 6 months, probably like the summertime of last year, those were hard conversations to have, and so people would just shop around, and then eventually they found out like, okay, this is happening all over the place, but immediately they can't pass that cost on. Now it's been happening for so long that you don't hear it as much because it's become the new normal, and those costs are all being passed on. So you keep hearing about, inflation and the price of goods that are going up. I mean, going to the grocery store, I know for me, I don't really look at prices that much, but I know if I buy so much in my cart, it should be like
roughly the
$200, and now that's $280 or $300. I'm like, oof, okay.
Yeah.
And that's things that people are feeling. And I've read another article was talking about retirees that've been living on a budget for all these years. Their income's not increasing, and they're spending more at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting and kind of scary at the same time with how things are changing. So let's talk, kind of the tail end of things here. The future of ARL, the direction. I know you've been expanding your team. I know you guys are doing a lot right now, and it's kind of cool to see that your vision post-COVID, where you're trying to take it. Are you able to talk a little bit about some things that you guys are working on?
Yeah, and we're always looking a couple of steps ahead, but we do know that the networking will dictate the growth, as we meet the people and the opportunities that they may bring, or how we could package deal together with that person. That's where we're really going to go. Now,
and when you say that real quick, who are the types of people you're trying to get in front of? Is that business owners? Is that other logistics companies? What do you mean exactly by that networking side?
So obviously on the customer side, it's the shippers that we're talking to and the opportunities that they necessarily have, and they may be using us for certain business now, and have we can work towards future business, and every year we look to grow those relationships. I have sales guys that are bringing on new accounts any given time. I also have sales agents that are 1099 guys all over the country that are networking and meeting people, and they may bring us some different opportunities. So on that side, I think that's the revenue side of things. But then you get the employee and people side of it, and a lot of times that could just be us out at different events. Maybe someone that works for another logistics company now that's just not happy, and they're looking to make a move. Maybe they actually focus on one line of service that they're not really what I do, but they pass up on all these other opportunities of things that I do really well, so they may want to bring that opportunities through us.
What's an example of something like that?
So we do some less than truckload shipments. So if you want to ship a pallet or two, we can obviously do it, and we can get you a pretty good price on it, but just not something that we sell first. We're more in the truckload space, so 45,000 pounds, however we want to ship it. So we may meet these guys that do high volume LTL, because that's what it is. And small package as well. It's just high volume, low revenue,
right,
but good profit margins on smaller revenue, but you do a lot of it. And those guys don't tend to play in our space. So we may be talking to them, and once you just hit it off with them, whether you've met them at a networking event or you meet them through somebody else, and you're at a dinner together, and you just click, and they're like, man, I want to do something with you. And like, well, this is what I do. And they're like, well, I actually have customers that could use flatbed services. I don't understand it. I couldn't sell it. I was like, well, do you want to walk us in? We'll do it in a partnership, or you just walk us in and become a sales agent of us. We'll pay you a commission, however it needs to work to get to the business. But ultimately it's two people that just, hey, genuinely liked each other, want to do some business together.
What's the smallest types of product or types of load that you guys are willing to get involved in? How consistent does that have to be throughout the year for it to be even worth your time?
The smallest one
This
usually,
is just me because I'm super curious.
Yeah, typically like 500 pounds or more is where we're at least going to do
So
that.
you'll literally be
we'll do a
responsible
pallet.
for one
We'll do
pallet.
it. I said, but we don't necessarily come in and say, okay, you have 2,000 of those every month. Well, there's probably some guys that are a little bit better at it than we are at it, or they just get better pricing at it. I know I could build a team around it too, but their price, they probably in total do $2 million a month.
Right.
They're going to get better pricing than me. But if we have customers that we're doing business with them and they don't have a means to move that, or sometimes we just, hey, I'll help you out. Like, I know that's going to cost me a couple $100. I'll just move it for you, as a sign of good faith. Just get it off your plate. So there's never business that's not enough. We'll do one load a month. I don't care. But I think as our guys, we teach them and coach them how they're almost building their own mini logistics company underneath of our umbrella. It's like, at some point you're going to want companies that can grow with you and help you grow, because then you can build up a team underneath of you. And it's hard to do. You'd rather do it with 15 to 20 accounts, get really strategic with them, rather than 100 accounts that give you transactional business.
No, that makes sense, man. It's interesting. Logistics is cool. It's such a unique thing. And is it something you always wanted to get into, or was it?
No, I had no idea.
No, just
I literally, I when I got out of school, I went to Brashear, city schools all my life. I just knew you're supposed to get good grades so you can go to college.
Yeah.
Then I got to college, went to Robert Morris, quite frankly, just because they gave me money to go there and I was paying for school. It's like, all right, I'm going to Robert Morris, business management degree, whatever. Now I'm just going to have to get this degree as fast as humanly possible, because I know society tells me I can't get interviews unless I have this degree, and we could spend a whole show talking about what I think's wrong with colleges and
yeah, for sure.
That's a pay to
I would
pay
actually,
clerk.
I would love to actually have that, because I think you would bring a good perspective on that too. I think we'd have a good conversation on that.
There's no reason what you need out of that. You can't do it in a year and a half. I mean,
Correct.
what are these? I don't need worldly exposure. Like, I don't need
that
to
intro
go
to the Bible. And I went to Duquesne. I was like, I didn't even go to class.
Like, I'm not an artsy guy. I know that at this point in my life. I was, 18 to 22 years old. Like, I know pretty much what I'm into.
Yeah.
So I don't need that. I do need to get this business management degree. So teach me the things that are around that about a business, but let's get actual, like, real stuff about the business, and let's talk to real business owners. But anyhow, so then it was, okay, now I just need to get a job. And I got an opportunity, thankfully, from PGT Trucking up in Monaca. And they had a management training program that would let me go spend 2 weeks in every department, from driver recruiting to safety to accounting to billing to dispatch, all the way through. And what I learned is I hated a lot of things.
Of course.
and there was a lot of that back office, billing and accounting, all those things. But when I got into dispatch, I was sitting there, and I worked in restaurants leading up to that. And these guys it's fast paced, phones are ringing, guys are MFing each other, they're yelling across the room, driver comes in, he's upset about it. And I was like, all right, this is getting me going. This is fun. And then so I just landed there, had a good mentor then that took me under his wing. He was given an opportunity to then go and start up a branch of what was Pittsburgh Logistics at the time. And he asked me to go with him as his young protege, and I was young, dumb. I'm like, yeah, whatever, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's just how it got launched,
Good for you, man. That's cool. It is so unique, the path that everybody kind of lands on and where you end up, and kind of how life unfolds for you.
But if I wasn't working my butt off to get through college, to get to that moment at that time, to be working to catch the eye of a veteran that saw me and saw something in me, and was rough on me, but trying to help me, I would have never got any of those opportunities.
Yeah.
So it was like, timing, yes, but I feel like anywhere I would have landed, I would have probably stood out just the same.
Yeah, I think timing certainly plays an aspect in everybody's life, but more importantly, what you said is if you work your ass off, that's you could have the same opportunity as me and you just outwork me, and naturally that's going to work in your benefit versus mine. And I think that's something too that we're starting to see a really big culture change is people are really lazy now, and the younger generation is, I mean, it's got to be difficult to hire somebody that's younger in today's world. Maybe it's not, but I just see this stuff on social media, and I see people bitching and moaning about everything, and it's like, man, like work, earn your stripes, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's
and
crazy.
it's not gonna be fun right off the jump.
Yeah,
like
nothing
it
is.
weren't all glorious years, and there was tough times. Bad bosses, bad ownership, different times. So, but you just keep going. And my thing always was, and even when I was really at odds with my previous employer, it was I would tell my guys, and I knew they were frustrated. I'd pull them in closed doors and say, "Look, I get it. I'm mad too, but if we get up every day and we choose to walk in this door and accept this paycheck, we are going to work our butts off. If you guys get another job opportunity, I'll write you a letter of recommendation."
Yeah.
It was to that point, but I was like, but if we show up, we will work.
Good for you, man.
And that's how I kind of rallied the troops around it. And eventually I got another job.
No, dude. I get it, man. You guys are on your own at this point.
Well, I'm out, man. But no, the same thing, though. I was like, if you guys ever need it, I'm here to help you, because I wanted to see them be successful, knowing a lot of them were in their 20s at the time. We're going to work for a long time.
For sure.
And then as I was rebuilding at ARL, I was bringing on some people that I hadn't talked to in a little while. They were all outside of their non-compete restrictions, and just, hey, this is what I'm trying to build here. Do you want to be part of it? Yep. And that's how we.
Well, that's where a big part of the whole networking aspect comes. That's why you don't fuck around at a job. You do what you're supposed to do. You take care of people, because every industry is so small. Even in fashion, I have no business being in fashion. It was something I just made up in my mind and decided to do. And it's like, I'm realizing how small this industry is. Yeah. So, dude, it all stems back. How we started this whole thing is just working your ass off, putting yourself in a position to be successful. And when you focus on the company environment, you focus on the culture, you realize those are all very, very important things with building a stronger foundation of you as a person and also as the business that you're a part of. And those people that choose to not focus on that, not to invest their time, then shame on them, because they don't deserve the opportunities. And I'll tell you right now, I'd love to have a Rolodex of people that I've known for 20 years in the clothing world that I could call and bring on. I'm not at that point. I'm starting to get there, and it's really cool to be able to say, I know this person's trustworthy. Sure. So it's the people that are out there that are listening. It's like, just work. Yeah. Work. Pittsburgh's a small city. The world is small, like smaller than we have any idea. And especially now with technology, the connections we have with everybody, you could pretty much find anything about anybody on planet Earth within minutes if you needed to. It's a different beast now.
Yeah, and I remember sitting there as young in the industry and sitting there with these guys. They're talking. They're all talking about, oh, this guy. I used to work with that guy. And I'd be so jealous of, like, man, they got all these connections and everything else. And now I am getting to that point, too, where I am the guy sitting there having those conversations with guys, talking about who we know and the younger guys are watching. But it's like, but you just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
I said that it does make it so that we've gotten some deals over the years that, hey, it's just because this guy happened to remember us from 4 years ago, and why we need to do the marketing, is make sure people are thinking about us when an opportunity comes up. But it was just the goodwill that we built years ago that I had no idea where it was going to go.
Yeah.
That's why every event we go to, you're just talking to different people, saying, it's going to be great this year, especially there's some events of people that we'd always see that same group of people, but you only really see them there. So all those things are going to start coming up again. And we had one where we've been inviting a lot of people to Pittsburgh. It's like, we want to get things back going. And there was a connection made at one of these events of a guy that we've been talking to on the phone and doing Skype meetings with. And he was just sitting there, actually in our massage chair.
Yeah, of course. You're the best. I need to get one for the house still.
He was just sitting there on his laptop, and he was like, have you talked to so-and-so? And I was like, no. And he goes, I didn't introduce you to them. I was like, no, but you should.
But you should.
And he did. And I was like, this right here is exactly why we need to have these face-to-faces, because it goes beyond just the meeting, and I was just sitting there, and just, he wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And he thought he introduced me to the company.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And at the end of the day, like, there's so many people I want to connect people with. And as I'm talking, there's two people once we get off here that I need to at least ask you if it makes sense for an introduction, and I'm wondering why one of them I haven't yet. But it's like, dude, everybody's so busy. That's why networking and being in front of all these people is so important, because look, there's no fault of mine for forgetting that. It's just you don't think about things, and people have their own lives and they're busy. But
we think about so many things. What are you thinking about in that moment?
For sure. Dude, I can't even shut my mind off at nighttime. The amount of times at 1 a.m. I'll be like, oh shit, I'll roll over and get on my phone and I'll make a note. It's like, dude, like I gotta stop. But we live in a world where that's not realistic anymore. It's just not. So what's kind of finalizing here? What's the future for ARL? What's the next couple steps you guys have for the next 6 months, 12 months? And then we'll kind of wrap with that.
Yeah, I think, at this point, we've been really investing in the current people we have, so we are looking to grow. So, anyone that wants to learn more about our industry, I'm always willing to talk. You don't have to have industry experience, but if you're, a likable person that, wants to bet on themselves, that's typically we can mold from there, because we need to add, and it's a little bit harder to get applicants at this point. I'm seeing it myself. Yep. But we're adding because we have needs. And, the budget said we should have probably hired, X amount of people, and I know we need X plus 3 now just to support the growth. And we want to grow as fast as possible, but it's when it makes sense. We're not going to grow to put a number up on the board to stroke our ego. We're going to grow, number one, to be sustainable, because I'm always in that world of what if you lose your biggest customer tomorrow? For sure. So that's what gets me up to grind every day. And I have that day one mentality every single day. And it's knowing if we just keep doing that, then we'll keep making that growth. But right now I have, we have, I think, over 50 agent terminals. We have our company store here in Pittsburgh, our corporate's up in Moon. I got my company store down in Jacksonville. We have a large operation in Colombia, South America, that we've been investing in for the past 5 or 6 years, giving them great opportunities as well. Will that mean that I end up with another office? And I got actually Timothy's moving to Denver.
That's awesome.
Friday.
Okay.
But he's going to go out and do his thing.
Yeah.
Kind of live
I met him at the event.
Yeah, he's got one of your suits.
Yeah,
You should get him in a fashion show.
Dude, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, but he's going to go, he asked me, he just want to go work remote. And, he's been living in the South Side, but he loves the ski and everything else. He's late 20s. Like, I'm going to take this opportunity, no kids. Like, dude, go.
Good for him.
Good for you. He's like, do it for a year. If you don't really love it, come back to Pittsburgh. If you want to stay, maybe we'll start a satellite office there. I don't know if I necessarily want to build another big operation out there, but get you a couple people, get some people around you. And then meanwhile, as I'm talking to people, anytime I see someone that's Denver, hey, I got to hook up with my boy Timothy, show him around, because to see where those connections will go, because he may just network us into something in Denver for all I know.
Especially that part of the country, man. You never know who you run into. You never know what one conversation leads to.
And that's what I love. I know we're going to grow. I know we're going to grow and be profitable at the same time and take care of these guys, but I have no idea exactly how we're going to do it, and I love that.
It's the unknown, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, dude. Anybody that's out there listening, I'm telling you, if you have any interest in improving your life, going and working for a great company, I personally staple my name all over you guys, man. You have been an incredible friend. Watching your business grow and watching you kind of execute things over the last few years has been really cool to see. And it's exciting because we talked the other day when I called you, and it's like we're now at a point in our lives where, we're mid-30s and we're getting to see what's happening, and we're getting to be the decision makers of businesses. And we have a lot of cool people in our network and a lot of good friends. And it's a testament to you and what you've done over the last 15 years for us being out of school, essentially 12 years, whatever it is. But I'm happy for you, dude. I appreciate you being on here. And this was a good episode as always. And if there's anything I could do to help out in the future, we appreciate you. And everybody make sure you check out ARL Logistics, and appreciate you, Jordan. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you next week.